I just help a man up to his feet or hold a newborn, but no matter what I do, my hands remembering my rifle, yeah.
Life's hard, I know that, still wouldn't change shit. I wouldn't go back, yeah, I wouldn't go back. Feelings I hold back, memories fade, yeah, they go fast, yeah, they go fast. Good times to come and go, survive the highs and lows. Just take it step by step, I guess, yeah, I suppose. Good times to come and go, survive the highs and lows. Just take it step by step, I guess.
Welcome to Veteran State of Mind, Corona Watch. We're just going to...
They should just call it COVID-20 instead of COVID-19. I know.
What's COVID?
COVID's like the disease, I guess, or the whatever. Once you contract the virus, then you've got COVID. I don't know. It's like the difference between HIV and AIDS.
Right,
maybe.
I have
I don't
with
really
me.
know. I should know. But it's 2020.
I have with me from the Center for Disease Control, the Director of Central Disease Control, Nate Boyer. He's got a lot of experience with dealing with diseases. Mostly.
Most of them are
in his
3 foot
genitals.
lower.
3 foot. How tall do you think you are? No, mate. Thanks for coming on the podcast. But let's just roll in this Corona thing because, well, it could be by the time I air this podcast that we're a lot.
No one will listen because they're all dead.
Well, no,
Could
they're
be
going to
that.
be busy. They're going to be busy skinning each other in the streets. Purge 2020. I actually hate the fucking movie The Purge, but I'm starting to like take my hat off a bit more to the directors now because I'm like, actually, I think people probably would go through and do something like that. It's mass hysteria in the streets. I haven't seen anything like it.
It doesn't
since the
really
Beatles.
seem like it though, dude. I mean, if you
No,
drive around
it's
LA, does
not.
it seem crazy?
No, it's because what we were just talking about is the
It's
media
just
spin
social
on
media,
things.
man, and obviously it's a real
The
thing.
media,
It's a real
of which
threat.
we are an aspiring
It's a
party.
real threat, but
when it
yeah,
comes-
exactly.
Although, unlike the actual media, I forget to bring in my copy and read the ads. So this podcast is now advertless because I left my phone in the car.
Yeah, you're
So I need to take some lessons from the media.
brought to you by coronavirus.
Brought to you by coronavirus. Stay in your fucking houses. Obviously, we're not listening to that opinion. I think this whole corona thing, mate, it's just really illustrative of how you as a person view life. Because it's like, I've seen people, I've seen, there's not really like an in-between reaction that I've seen from people. It's either they've gone in a full fucking like headless chicken panic mode, or they're like, this is stupid, can't stop living our lives every time there's like something like this. Because there's always going to be one. Like, that's the way the world works.
Plagues happen.
Yeah, there's constantly a turnover of new viruses and stuff. Why this one's caught on more than any other, I think Tony Romo's behind it with his corona sponsorship. I mean, let's be honest, everything he's done has always ended badly, so his corona sponsorship is going to be the same. I actually love Tony Romo. Shout out for him. Got me 50 points in fantasy football once.
Once.
But look, this stuff happens all the time. There's always dangers out there. I pointed out to someone the other day that I remember driving through Texas once and I saw a sign. It was like, I think in 2017, there was 3,700 road deaths in Texas in a year. You know, people die, unfortunately. And yeah, people die. And I just don't get why this is causing way more of a panic than whatever the last fucking thing was.
It's because it hasn't peaked yet. We don't really, you know what I mean? Like, if you look at Italy, like, a lot of people have died that have contracted it. But, so they're trying to mitigate that.
But here's the thing. Well, they would all
I mean,
people,
you can't do nothing.
But they're old people, right?
Mostly,
Now,
yeah.
old people have a tendency
weaker,
to die anyway.
Immune systems.
Yeah, like old people, I hate to break it to people, but old people are at that stage where there's probably going to be dying of something.
For sure.
or another
No.
anyway.
I'm
So
not
if it
disagreeing
wasn't
with
this,
that.
it was going to be something else. And I don't see why that should stop me going fucking clubbing.
Well, yeah, maybe not clubbing, but the whole cancel life thing is not the answer to me either, man. Like, it's tough though, because if you think of, we talked about it in the car over here, man. We won't go into the deep details of what you said because it was ridiculous. It was hilarious, but like,
Obviously,
people will come in contact. Like, I have young nieces and nephews. You know what I mean? And like, I have like ones that are like babies, and like the babies, specifically the baby. You know, I would not want them to come in contact with anybody that's carrying it, whether they're having symptoms or not. So like, I get it from that standpoint. But you know, to your point, most people, it will just be like a flu or less that contract it. You know, it will just be like a little more than a cold. But at least we know that as of now. I'm no expert.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing as well is, at this point, I've made so much fun of it, I'm guaranteed to get it at some point now. Like, there's no way.
But I'm with you, man. The absolute, like, I went to the grocery store down in South Central the other day, just to go to the bank because they got the only Wells Fargo that's open until 7 p.m., which is awesome.
Right.
And I go in, and there's just like people shouldering multiple packages of toilet paper. Everyone's freaking out.
What is the thing behind the toilet paper?
There's stuff all over the aisles. Everyone's like madness, dude.
But what is the thing behind?
I don't know.
I
guess it makes you just excessively shit, maybe.
But it doesn't.
I know. I don't know.
But I don't know where.
It's because somebody tweeted it. Somebody tweeted, "Hey, we're having a shortage of toilet paper," and then someone retweeted it, and then everyone freaked out.
Companies.
Genius.
Like these toilet paper moguls are swimming like Scrooge McDuck through.
I wish I had.
Right now.
I wish I had a piece of the pie in any toilet paper company or hand sanitizer.
You'd
be so wealthy.
The other thing about toilet paper, dude, is like there's some things that like if you run out of water,
people are buying pallets of hand sanitizer,
but like
and toilet paper
check this out, dude,
and water.
There's some things you have to have, like food you can't make do without. Toilet paper.
Take a shower.
You can do without.
Hose off.
You
right
can
after.
do without toilet paper.
Like, I do it all the time.
It's not that big of a deal. Take it from people who have been in the military. You can live without toilet paper when you need to.
They did it for thousands of years.
Yeah,
toilet
go
paper is a
Roman
new
style.
invention.
Make yourself a nice brush. Basically, Google it. Google
go
Roman
Middle East.
Brush.
Just use your left hand.
Yeah,
you don't shake with that.
Or right
one.
if you're left-handed.
No,
you shouldn't be shaking
it's
hands.
always left, man. Don't be weird,
isn't it? I don't know, dude. I was more interested. I'm not trying to shake any hands.
You just did it when we walked in here.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did. Fucking damn my fucking great upbringing. But yeah, this it's weird one because I guess I can understand there being, if there's like a genuine, like say there's an earthquake and it's imagine a catastrophic earthquake. I can imagine people why they would panic by water and stuff like that. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's the fact that it's so ludicrously nothing to do with what's going on, and people are still doing it, and it's been like.
Well, as of last week, 38%. They did a poll. 38% of the people thought it was related to the beer. Like, we're stupid.
Who were they polling in this thing?
People. It doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't matter if you're polling the 38% of the dumbest people. That's still stupid.
That's insane. Why do I want to come over to this country? Honestly, that's
because it's fun.
Nuts. I mean, it is fun. Like those 38% of people make it.
We have some really, really smart people too.
Yeah,
we're very diverse.
Yeah,
it's a melting pot of absolute morons.
I will say that for America.
Geniuses.
I definitely feel when I'm out here, there's far more like the ends of the spectrum.
Elon Musk is here, bro.
Yeah, well, he's from South Africa though.
But he's smart, and he moved to America.
Exactly, that's the thing. Everyone I think that's kind of the thing. Is it's like same with athleticism over here. You've got like the greatest athletes in the world and the fatties.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
it's true.
I was thinking the whole sports bar culture is very kind of interesting, isn't it? This idea of, people going to watch other people exercise while you sit there and devour plates of nacho and beer. And there's at no point when you like stuff in your face do you think, oh, maybe instead I could actually. There's nothing stopping you. Like, okay, you can't do it in front of a stadium of thousands of people. But there's nothing stopping you actually just leaving the bar and going throw a football around. Oh, actually, you know a little bit about that, wouldn't you? Because you know what? Let's go back. Let's forget this corona stuff for a bit. Like, we can do 20 minutes without coronavirus talk. Ish. Actually, no. First one, I am going to have one more complaint about coronavirus.
Go.
Sports channels, stop talking about coronavirus. Your job
There's no games
Your
on,
job
dude.
is to talk about sports.
Talk about what sports?
Rerun all ones.
They're all getting canceled because of the coronavirus.
Preview.
That's what they're talking about.
Let's have preview fantasy league for next year. Fantasy football.
For what? For football?
Yeah.
If we're alive.
We'll be fine. There's other,
know,
my league, I wouldn't mind bringing some new blood into my league anyway. So if we have a couple of spots open up, not a big deal. But dude, we've got, like.
Wait a minute.
Like
after 9/11, should they have been talking about sports?
Yes, it's a sports channel.
No,
it's a fucking sports channel.
Yes, do push-ups.
No, fuck you and your push-ups, right? Let's talk people through a bit about your background. Because like we were both saying actually before we go into this. And I've said this on the podcast before. The word dwell probably isn't the right word, but I'm going to use it. I think there's too much time spent by veterans talking about the good old days, quote unquote, air quotes. But I do think it's also important to get to know, to know a bit about that because then it gives context to kind of what kind of comes after. So just talk people through, first of all, like, how you ended up going into the military. And let's pick it up from there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. By the way, the resting on the laurels thing's not my bag, but also like the thing I fear most about going to veterans events is just getting cornered by someone that wants to talk shop and just like talk about, you know, the pipe hitting days in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm just like, dude, I don't want to talk about that at all. Not because I'm like, PTSD. I'm just like, dude, it's
just good.
You did it. I did it. We all did it. We know.
Yeah. It's like talk about like I had great times at high school too.
Yeah. Yeah, not really.
But it's funny, like it's every now and again I quite liked one of those nights. Like every now and again.
If it's with someone that I'm on the same page with, man, but like just to do it, but someone that I don't know, general,
especially in the circles that you move in now. I mean, it's potentially an everyday occurrence for you if you weren't, like. So you weren't like a typical kind of like a military.
No, I never really thought about it seriously growing up. I mean, in high school, I did have a recruiter come over to the house, but it was more just because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to go to college. And so I thought, maybe I'll join the Army or something. Had this guy come over, met with my parents, and I was not really like serious about doing it though. And I didn't at the time. I graduated high school. I worked on a fishing boat for a while and rode a bike taxi, did all kinds of odd jobs.
I'm interested
San
in the
Diego.
fishing boat.
San Diego.
So what were you doing on there?
I was a deckhand.
Right.
So deckhand.
Okay. Hey,
I thought you were gonna go there.
No, I wasn't gonna go there. Can you not tell I got serious face on? When I lean in my hand like this is serious face. When I lean back like this, that's joke face. All right, so you're in serious face right
now. So basically, it was a charter fishing boat. We were catching tuna, albacore, yellowtail, stuff like that. We'd go out about 100 miles offshore, and basically it was like 40 or so people would pay to come, sport fish. And I'm like gearing their lines up, helping them with casting in depth, and when they get something hooked up, like the technique to reel, you know what I mean, and keeping the slack out and letting the fish run and all that stuff. And then when it gets close to the boat, gaffing it. So it's just this long shaft.
Like Poseidon.
Yeah.
So you just like Poseidon on the side of the boat.
It's like a bamboo shaft with a hook on the end, and you just lean over the side of the boat and you like hook the fish in the head and then pull it into the side.
So this wasn't catch and release there.
No, not at all, man. And then you basically you get the fish, you straddle it because it's big and it's like flopping around, and you like stab your dikes which are like pliers into the fish's head, and then like open them up to try to like just kill it, and then it usually dies, or you smack it in the head with a hammer.
It's brutal.
It's very brutal. But it's quicker for the fish, man. You want it to suffer on the boat. I
don't want him to be dead anyway. I want him to be living.
Don't you like sushi? You were just talking about going to eat sushi. This is how you catch it.
Yeah. It's called being a hypocrite, all right?
Yeah.
Look it up. We're in LA. I get to be as hypocritical as I want.
That's true. So anyway, did that, and then moved up here to Los Angeles because I was interested in film and TV. I had no idea where to start. I took some acting classes. But honestly, I just partied, man. I wasn't really into it. It was early 20s, and I just was like, I had late form teenage angst. It's just like, whatever, the world's a mess anyway. What's the point? What's the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just that kind of.
You was just talking in the car about how the world needs a good play.
Yeah, we
still got it.
This isn't the worst. This isn't the worst thing. A reset button now and again is not the worst thing in the world. Potentially.
I mean,
I'm sorry if
sometimes you can do it through meditation. Yeah, I think,
and if I go, I go.
Look,
man.
mate.
I'm not saying,
I think this is going to be episode 44. I think 45. As I always tell people, when making jokes about stuff, it's not because we don't care. It's because it's called being.
It's because we really don't care.
We couldn't give a flying fuckers about your dead grandma. Of course we could, but
we don't. We could. We don't. We don't. But we could.
Well, how can you care about someone you've never met? It's an interesting side topic.
I'm just kidding.
But no, it's dude. The thing is about humor and stuff like that is.
Oh, it gets you through some hard stuff in life, man.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the people who care, I think. If it's the people who care, like, if you're making jokes about things, like Ricky Gervais is someone I really like. And what I really like about a lot of his jokes is that there's always, like, a real point. But, like, what he says might sound brutal to begin with, but there's usually a really kind of, like, socially, like a real point about
it's like Bill Burr,
window
too.
on society.
You listen to Bill Burr ever? Bill Burr's the same way.
Bill Burr's brilliant. Dave did this year Dave Chappelle did the new stand-up, which was brilliant. Yeah. Bill Burr's one was brilliant too. Those two were great, and they get like a lot of stuff for being like a lot of shit for being quote unquote controversial or brutal.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, but everything that they're pointing a light onto is important stuff. And if you can't have those conversations, then like the fact that they're bringing it up means that they do care. And I find that very
and the fact that it pushes people's buttons is because there's truth behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and like anyone as well, it's like actually thinks that because they made a joke like that they actually,
wish that
Dave
Dave
Chappelle's like his abortion one was probably the one that I felt was like the closest to the bone in his new one. But that doesn't mean he wants anyone to go through, to be in a position where they do feel torn between like that. It doesn't mean he wants anyone to be in that position. But the fact is, people are, and he's shining a light on it and making us. And I thought, he came up with, some kind of good points in there about like, hey, it should be 100% the woman's choice, but if it's 100% the woman's choice, the guy has 100% choice to walk away too. It's like you can't have these two. You can't have these two things where, and it's like when he puts it like that in a joke form, you look at it you take your own emotion out of it a little bit and you see it like a bit more objectively.
Yeah.
And I think like the whole kind of like the veteran military community needs a big fucking dose of being able to laugh at itself a bit more, because Jesus Christ, talk about a group, it's just.
We're a pretty entitled bunch too, man.
Fuck yeah.
Right now, it's pretty ugly.
Yeah.
I just say that straight up, man. I love my fellow warfighters, man. I love the vet community, but I fall into the trap too. You know what I mean? Because people shower us with love because they're guilty from the way people were treated in Vietnam, and it's like overcompensating, and then we're building up this image in our head that we're all like these great heroes, and it's like. We're just not. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're people that made a decision. A lot of us did some crazy stuff, some, acts of heroism, acts of bravery. But that doesn't mean like just everything I did over there or everything that I'm about or the reason I joined is because I'm some like incredible person. Yeah. A lot of us were just like, we had no choice. You know what I mean?
Just wanted to fight.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, it's like if you would have fought anybody.
Well, and there's a lot of people that go over there and, maybe in a tough situation, you're behind the gun and you don't know what to do, and maybe you shot the wrong person at some point.
Bro,
right?
Let's be honest as well. There's a lot of people who deliberately shot the wrong person.
That's true. Exactly. That's a great point. So then we're back here, though, and, like, I'm not condoning excessive force by police officers in any way, but there are definitely situations where someone maybe didn't have enough training or made a bad decision. People make bad decisions, made the wrong choice, and it's, like, ruining their life, and the entire brand of the police force is just tarnished. Like, cops are bad, cops are evil, cops are out to get you. But it's like in the military, everyone's like, oh no, y'all are heroes though. I'm like, what's the difference? Just because we're in a different country?
But, I tell you the difference, bro, is rightly or wrongly, like one of the things about being in the military is you dehumanize the enemy, right? Whereas like a cop, the violence that say a cop would, I'm not saying rightly or wrongly, but a cop will at times have to use violence, and when they do, it's against someone who is of their own community, of their own country. Whereas when you commit violence, like let's say you heard a story about a time where we've all heard these stories, we've seen these stories. Somebody maybe on a machine gun opened up on a car, turned out it was full of a family. Now, because they're from a different nationality, they speak differently, they look different, they live on the other side of the world. Oh well, that's just how it is at war. People just collateral damage. Just one of those collateral damage. No problem. Whereas imagine a police officer in that same situation just shot up a car full of people. Well, it's the same thing, that they might have had reasons to believe that there was.
They might have felt threatened.
Might have felt threatened and all this stuff. But with the soldiers, it just gets, hey, no problem. Just carry on, go back to work the next day. And I think that's like a real problem. I think with the military is I do think as well, like being in the British forces, we did have stricter rules of engagements. I think we probably ended up with less of these from, anecdotally what I hear.
Honestly, we did in the special forces too.
Yeah, pretty
it's very strict because they know you're highly trained and you should be able to decipher and make those better decisions. So we did have higher standards, and like that stuff didn't. I was fortunate. My team, my guys, that stuff never happened. You know what I mean? I never was in a situation where we may have killed the wrong guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? There was definitely situations where I literally almost shot somebody. I remember it clearly because it's going to haunt me forever. I'm glad it didn't happen, but I almost shot somebody who was a bad dude, but he was unarmed. And you don't shoot people that are unarmed. You just don't. You know what I mean? And I thought he was because it was dark and there was a muzzle flash from across a rooftop coming from his direction. turns out it was our partnered force Iraqis just shooting up in the air, being an idiot. But I didn't know. So when he's running at me. Yeah. And I saw this muzzle flash. I'm like hanging on the corner of a roof, standing on a railing 3 stories up with my, and I fired back because it's like I'm fearing for my life. This guy's coming at me, and I missed, thankfully. Yeah. But then he jumps off the freaking roof and goes down to 3 stories down, just shattered his legs. I'm sure he didn't make it. But it was like I felt super guilty because I was like, But at the end of the day, like in that situation, there was no way I could have. Yeah. If anybody was in my shoes, I would say very few people would not have done the same thing.
Yeah. And that gives you empathy towards the police because, and again, it's like one of these things of like, there's nothing cut and dry about any of these situations, right? So just because, like, if I say I feel like a lot of the times cops get a bad rep, that doesn't mean I'm not saying there aren't any racist cops.
Exactly.
Or there aren't bad cops.
No, there's bad cops.
Of course there are.
There's a ton of bad cops. There's a ton of shitbags in the military.
I was going to say, because I've said before, if you are a shitbag, the best place for you to join is the military because you will get rewarded for being a shitbag. Where else can you call someone a fucking cunt and scream in their face and make their life a misery and get paid for it? Like, there's nowhere else. Like, you will be rewarded for being that piece of shit who wants to bully people. And I've seen it every time I've gone on tour. There's the ones they'll creep out. They're the ones who you'll know that they're taking warning shots at civilians. You'll see that they're the ones who are they'll kill cats and dogs. And that kind of thing. Fucking psychos. Yeah. And they exist. Oh, yeah. There's at least in a company, like, let's say you got a company of 100 guys, you got at least 2 or 3 fucking psychos in there.
Wait, there's so much more of an emphasis on passing the ASVAB test than there is a psyche val. Yeah. Coming in, you know what I mean? It's a big emphasis. Like, well, this guy, he's sound of mind, but he's just not so good at engineering. Mm-hmm. So I just don't know if he's the right guy. And then you could have a guy that's just a genius, but he's, a psychopath. Yeah. You're like, dude, this guy's scores are so high, though.
Yeah, a lot of these guys that join as well. Like, I'm not. Again, it's not necessarily laying the blame at their feet. A lot of them have had traumatic childhoods. Like really,
for sure,
a lot really bad. Like
most people, and I'd say most people in America are running to the military. There's a lot of guys and girls that grew up very patriotic, knew that was what they were going to do. But if I were to go through my basic training, my platoon and basic training, I would say way more of the people, it was like not always something they necessarily wanted to do. It was something they were interested in. But for a lot of people, it was a last resort, and a lot of people, it was a great opportunity and a great option. Like, hey, I'm going to get college paid for. I'm going to learn structure and have a purpose and all these things. Like, it's more selfish reasons than patriotic reasons.
Oh yeah, and again, it can be a bit of both. It can, it doesn't have to be this one or the other.
Mine honestly was a bit of both. Yeah. I mean, so I'll go back to
talk us through you.
So 9/11 happened when I was 20 years old, and I was living in LA.
Did you hear about it on Sports Center?
No, my mom actually called me. So I lived in this tiny little studio, up on Gower and Franklin Street, in I guess that's East Hollywood, sort of, near below the Hollywood sign, like that area. And I was living up there. It was by, I want to say 5:36 in the morning, something like that. It was very early out here when the towers got hit, the first one anyway. And my phone rang, and it was my mom. So my dad gets up. My dad's a racehorse veterinarian. My dad gets up.
Racehorse veterinarian.
Yeah, he gets up, or at least used to. He doesn't quite get up as early now, but he used to get up, 4:45 every day, do his exercises in the living room, make some coffee, have a bagel, head off to the track, right? So I'm assuming he had the news on or something, TV on, and or heard on the radio or who knows what, and that this happened. So my mom calls me. I answer the phone. She's like, Nate, turn on the TV. I was like, what channel? And she's like, doesn't matter, just turn it on. And I turn it on. It's like, you see a smoking tower. Yep. And it was just like, whoa. What I remember the most about that day was that evening out in the streets, there was like these patriotic parades in LA. People dressed head to toe in like American flag gear, like dressed up like Uncle Sam. Like, it was really cool. You know what I mean? To see that sort of like us really coming together. And I was really proud of that because I wasn't necessarily a super patriotic person. I didn't dislike my country. I just didn't care. You know what I mean? I took it for granted. And so I started to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. Started traveling. Ended up going. Went with my family over to Ireland once, and then I backpacked through most of Western Europe just by myself, sleeping on the trains and in hostels and whatnot. And then a year after that, I ended up going to the Darfur and did some relief work over there in Western Sudan, Eastern Chad. And that was what really changed me, because I'd read in this Time magazine article about the people of the Darfur. 300,000 have been murdered already, right? And there was all these refugee camps popping up. It was essentially this Janjaweed militia was rolling through these villages, raping the women, killing the men, taking some of the children off to be child soldiers, burning the villages to the ground and moving on, simply because, a different tribe, different God, maybe, like stuff like that. And it was just, I just couldn't believe that was happening in 2004. You know what I mean? And so I called every NGO to try to get over there, and all of them said, hey, you don't have a college degree, you don't have any special skills, like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, but you guys are understaffed. Like, I'm reading about it. Okay. I'll go do whatever. I'll go help build refugee campsites and assist in medical centers, whatever. I work with autistic kids here in LA. Like, I can play with kids, or there's got to be something that you need help with, And they were like, well, it's just not that simple. And I was like, screw that.
Well, that's why you're fucking struggling for people in the first place.
Exactly.
They make it so fucking hard.
Exactly. So I just flew over there anyway. I applied for a visa, and they gave me one, like a 60-day travel visa. And so I just flew over there. When I got on the ground in the capital of Chad, I was like still, several hundred miles from the Darfur. But I BS'd my way onto a UN flight, flew out to the refugee camps with these other, most like local aid workers, and talked my way into a job there for, the month and a half or so that I was out there at the camps. And it completely changed my life, man. Just the opportunity to, like, not only like be of service, as people say, like, in a corny way, I feel like, but it was more about perspective, and appreciating how grateful those people were that an American would leave what we have here to go over there. They were just like astounded that I would do that, and they wouldn't let me. I mean, a family would put me up for a time, or I would like sleep at the refugee camps, like on the ground underneath the stars with these people. And everywhere, I just felt so welcome, and I felt like really purposeful for the first time, like I just was at home. And part of it was like people just, the gratitude for just showing up and doing what you could, but also I didn't have a great image of myself, and so like that austere environment, I felt suited me, because I felt like I was a dirt bag. I just wasn't very valuable, you know what I mean? And I was like, well, no one values these people, so I fit in. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And so it was just interesting. I mean, the cultural and language barriers were super prevalent. I play soccer with the kids every day, help pass out food rations, help build the campsites that were growing like crazy, digging ditches, like just doing hard labor, to be honest. And it just, I was so proud to be there, and I became very proud to be American because of that, the way that they looked at us and like what we stand for, like the hope that this country does have for a lot of people, and I know there's a lot of people that will disagree with that, say like, no, we don't have hope for everybody and whatever. But this is the place that supports underdogs. Like we always pull for the person that has less of a shot if we don't have a dog in the fight. You know what I mean? We want the underdog. And it's not like that everywhere. A lot of times, you have to be you're born into a certain name. Then if you're not born with that name, you have no hope. Yeah. Here, you obviously have more advantages, maybe, if you're born into a certain family. Yeah, for sure. But you can still become anything.
It's not cut and dry, like 100%. No. That you have the guy coming up to the presidential race recently, Mike Bloomberg spent like $500,000 on advertising and stuff like that. Half a billion. Sorry, $500 million on advertising. He has a better shot of becoming a president than you do because of his wealth. That's a fact. But in theory, you could become president. And there's not many places. There's like, apart from like a few places in Europe and stuff, there's really not that many places. Most places, if you want to be anybody and become an important person, you usually have to do it through crime or violence. If you look in Mexico, for instance, you know, which we're a couple of hours from Mexico here, which is crazy. We're like literally a couple of hours away. If you want to get into the upper echelons of power there, then you're probably going to have to do it violently, you know, through crime. And this is one of the few countries in the world where you can be legitimately kind of, you know, the social mobility is a lot better. That doesn't mean that there's not massive problems with it still, because there are. Right. You know, it's not a level playing field. No. I don't think you can.
People always talk about the lesser of two evils. I don't know how many countries there are in the world. There's hundreds of them, but this is the lesser of hundreds of evils, in my opinion. Like,
no,
you know what I mean?
100%.
It's not perfect. It is a mess. We've got so much to work on. We can always do better, but it's still. It's still my favorite.
Yeah, no, I do. I love it over here too. Don't get me wrong. There's a few things I change, and I love
for sure.
And I
you
love,
can be anything. Yeah, you can't be anything everywhere else.
No, and I actually get pissed off when I'm over here about how ungrateful some people are to be American, because as much as I love the UK, you know, with me wanting to work in the arts and stuff, you know, so when I'm over here now, I can't work while I'm in the States. I would be so much further ahead in my career if I happened to have been born in America. And I could have just come to LA, worked a job, driven a fucking Uber or whatever, and got into, you know, because I had to take, you know, I've had to, you know, try and make it, and you know, I've done pretty well now, but to try and make it from Wrexham, North Wales, where there's not really much of an entertainment scene, and there's not really the option of going anywhere. Like in America, if you're born in fucking Omaha or somewhere, you can move to, you know, you can move to New York, you can move to LA, and you know, you've got all these different opportunities. Like, you've got a whole continent to choose all these different opportunities from. So I get pretty pissed off when I hear people complaining about it in the States. I'm like, if you don't like it where you are, you can fucking move. Like, you can, if you don't like California, you can move to Denver. If you don't like Denver, you can move to fucking Seattle or whatever. There's all these different places you can move. I don't believe that you can't find a niche for you, and if you're born in America, that there's not going to be somewhere that fits you perfectly. I don't believe that. There's so many fucking choices.
I agree.
All right,
I agree, man.
Tourism board. Sound. I'll take my check now. Thank you, California Tourism Board. But yeah, it's true, dude. And you know, I know you and I are very big on continuing, you know, like making change happen yourself rather than expecting it to come to you. So it's like, oh, I don't like the laws in California. Well, if you like the ones in Texas better, move to fucking Texas.
Yeah.
Don't expect things to change around you. Fucking move yourself. And this is something I'm going to offer on a little rant now. One of the ones that, you know, like most people's parents, or not parents, sorry, grandparents' generation plus, used to move to where work was. And now there's this thing in, like, so in Wales especially, like in South Wales, you know, people move to the valleys for the coal mines. Because people weren't living in the valleys before. They only moved there because that's where the coal was. So these towns grew up based around, you know, the coal mines. So you got very small houses, nothing else going on there. And then now the people there are going like, because there's no work there, they're like, oh, well, the work needs to come to us. These are our homes. So they're only your homes because it was your grandparents' workplace. Now, there might be a business park 50 miles away that needs people to work in a fucking telephone, you know, like a telecom company or something. Move to them. Like, don't expect them to move to you. And this attitude, I think, is like this one of entitlement. It's like, again, you know.
It's just with technology, dude. You know, things become so much easier, and so we don't have to work for anything. I mean, I just recently been developing this podcast project with History Channel, right? And sitting down with World War II vets, and them.
Is that the one you did with Tim and Jesse?
Stories. Yeah, exactly.
Shout out Tim and Jesse.
Yeah, shout out Tim and Jesse. But just to hear, I mean, it's all humble beginnings, and then they go back to humble endings. You know what I mean? Like, they come back from war. Talk about like heroism. More people died on Iwo Jima than the entire global war on terror, American-wise, and that was a 5-week battle, and that wasn't even like the bloodiest of the bloodiest on a 2x4 mile island. You know what I mean? Yeah. And these guys came back, and what they do? They went to work. A lot of them went to work in jobs like that.
Didn't have a choice.
Exactly, because you didn't have a choice.
To come back.
But here it's like you come back, and everyone, if you're not 100% with the VA, everyone you're pissed off. You're like, well, I should be 100%. I got PTSD. I got this, that. They're like, everybody's got it, man. PTSD. Yeah. First of all, the D is dumb because post-traumatic stress. It stands for dumb. Yeah. It's you know it's abnormal circumstances. You're going to have an abnormal reaction if you don't react as far as like feeling things like survivor's guilt, having dreams, nightmares, whatever you want to call it. If you don't have some of that stuff, if loud noises don't freak you out, if you came back from war and you were just like, I'm fine. That's nuts.
Yeah, that's a psycho.
Something's wrong with you.
But there's a few differences, I think, with the PTSD. It's like, when my granddad, when he was in the bomber crews, he knew when he was in danger, he knew when he wasn't, right? So they'd be in the base in the UK, not in danger. They go up they go up on that mission. He knows he's in danger for the duration of that mission. And then they come back, not in danger. I think that one of the things that's been different about the war on terror is that for the first time really in history, you've been, in theory, constantly in danger for the entirety of the deployment. You could be attacked at any time, regardless of, you could just be eating your ration pack and fucking grenade comes over the wall. There's never a time where you're fully not in danger. And that's been very different to other wars, because it used to be you go on campaign, fight one battle, and that would be it. And the rest of the time, you might have been on campaign for 6 months, but you were only in danger once. And then when you were in danger, that danger was incredibly intense.
These Ewo guys, they were in Guam and Guadalcanal.
Yeah, I know.
But
that's kind of what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's kind of where things have been changing, because the other thing I was going to say was different is you've got, for the first time ever, these guys would go away. So in the Second World War, you'd join up and you'd go away and you'd go on campaign, and you knew that you were, like, until the war was won, that you were going to be doing these battles. So you'd go battle, then maybe you'd go to Australia for a few months and chill. But like the way the war on terror has been done is it's like these wars are constantly going on, but you'll go to them for 6 months or 12 months, depending on what unit is. Then you come back for a year. Then you go back. Then you go forwards. Then you go back. Then you go forwards. There's never been an end in sight with it. And I think that like of going like that constantly back and forward and never being able to, you never fully get back into one rhythm or the other. I've said it before on this. I think it should have been that we went to these fucking places and stayed, and people fucking stay there until the fucking job gets done. The same way as we used to do in like World War II. Guys weren't fucking going there expecting to come back until the job got done. I think there's a lot to be said for that. But the way that
it's also so different because we're not fighting a country.
Exactly, it's all very different, dude. But I think that there are like, the other thing as well is these.
That makes sense. The op tempo is totally different. Yeah, pretty much every war before this one, except for Vietnam, they're all like 4 years. Yeah, it's over. You know what I mean? You weren't having. There's guys now who have done like 20 years of going back, like 20 years of deploying every other year. It's it's nuts. I mean, there's some guys out there like they're 10 tours, but they do like like the Ranger guys, they do like short tours. Yeah. But then there's like some guys, like the U.S. Army, they were doing like I don't know about you guys, but some of those units were doing like 13, 14 months. Yeah, I think the longest was 18 that I ever heard. It might have been even up to 2 years, but it was definitely 18 months for a bit. And they go back for, you get 2 weeks in the middle of 18 months. Yeah. It's crazy. But the longest one I ever did was about 9 or 10. Right. That was plenty long.
So you went in as was it an 18 X-ray? Mm-hmm. So just explain to the British listeners.
So real quick, I'll finish up the Africa thing because that leads into it. So my last week in the Sudan, or in the Darfur, I should say, I got malaria, and I was like put up by this family, and they were taking care of me. They were trying to feed me. I couldn't keep anything down though. I mean, it was like basically 3 days of just like the worst flu you can possibly imagine. Corona. I think it's way worse than that. The symptoms.
Does that make you feel better about the fact that you are going to infect corona?
No. Yeah, I feel like my immune system is very strong because I had malaria.
We'll see.
It's 3 days in and out.
We'll see.
And so.
This is the Nate Boyle Memorial episode.
You better get it out by Monday so I can hear it before I die. And so they did that, and they put me in this. They quarantined me. They put me in this room on this cot and had a little radio next to me, and there was a Bob Marley cassette tape in the radio, right? So I listened to Bob Marley on both sides 3 times, and I was freaking sick of Bob Marley. So I start flipping through trying to find a station, and the only one that came through was the BBC. Yeah. And
shout out BBC.
Shout out BBC.
No, not shouting out BBC. Fucking dude.
So it was a woman, British woman's voice reporting, and it was during the Second Battle of Fallujah. So I'm listening to the Marines, go in and fight for these people that can't fight for themselves. And I just like felt that pull in the moment. I don't know if it's because I was hallucinating and sick and a mess, but I just knew I was going to come back and join the military. So I came back to the States, ended up finding about the 18 X-ray contract, which is basically for the Army Special Forces. You would come in off the street, you go to basic training and airborne school, and then you go to a pre-selection course. If you pass that, it's a month long, and actually the attrition rate was maybe higher than regular selection, but it was all people like me, people that weren't prior service military. You're doing like long distance land navigation. They're basically just beating the crap out of you for a month, not physically, literally, but just putting you through the ringer, man. And people are quitting or not making time standards, and they're washing out. If you get through that, then you go to selection with the rest of the regular Army guys, Special Forces Assessment and Selection, and that's 3 weeks long. And if you pass that, then you start your roughly year to year and a half long training to be a Green Beret. And so I did that. I mean, in basic training, I was like so weak when I got there because I didn't train at all. I wasn't a fitness guy. Rolled my own cigarettes and drank too much and didn't really care. And I just had turned. I was 23. I think it turned 24. Just turned 24, something like that. So I was a little bit older, and I really knew what I wanted. I knew because of the Special Forces motto was "De oppresso liber," the mission, which means to free the oppressed. I'm sorry, which means to free the oppressed. I just assumed everybody in Britain speaks Latin. Is that wrong?
Well, when we're not at Hogwarts, we do push up on it.
And also, it was like the mission. It's partnered. You're working with partner forces. Everything you do is by, with, and through Afghans, Iraqis, no matter where you are. And that was interesting to me because of my time just spent in the Darfur. You know what I mean? And so I knew I wanted to be a Green Beret. It was that or bust. And because of that mentality, I outworked everybody around me, Because when I got to basic training, like I said, I was in bad shape. I think on the first PT test, I did like 29 push-ups and 53 sit-ups and ran 2 miles in like 15 minutes, which is not good.
It's disgusting.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And I weighed about 150 pounds.
Oh, my God.
And then by the end of basic training, I did 145 push-ups in 2 minutes, like 105 sit-ups, and ran 2 miles in under 11 minutes. So like completely transformed over 14 weeks because I just worked my ass off. I did extra shit all the time. If we had any free time, I would take my body armor, go down to the track, and just like do a lap. I did a mile of lunges one time, just straight lunges for a whole mile, 4 laps, which is horrible. I know it sounds so bad right now, but I just knew I was mentally conditioning myself more than anything. Yep. If I can just do this, like there's nothing that will stop me. I'll be fine when I get out there. It will never. I never wanted it to be, a physical incapability that stopped me from making it. It was going to either be because I'm just not mentally ready, or
if you get an injury or something.
Yeah, or I'm just not picking it up quick enough because I'm a new guy off the street. I'm like, that would be, I could have lived with that. Yeah. But if it was that I wasn't prepared physically, or even I guess mentally, that's not a good way of putting it. Mentally prepared in that sense, as far as the toughness sense, there's no excuse for that. That's all up to me. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily get to choose how fast of a learner I am, but I get to choose how hard I work.
Yeah,
everybody has that
some
choice.
People are more it's like it's same with athletics. There's some people who you can be really fit, but some people just don't have, say, the gift of like the touch of like, so the throwing in American football around, it's like a lot of it is just like this. It's like this kind of the judging distances and being able to like make
just arm strength.
When you see when you see some people play sports, some people create space out of nothing. No matter how big they are, they just move gracefully. So you might have someone that's really fit, but some people with I've seen it with soldiering. Some people doesn't matter how much training they get, they'll never look like the weapon is a part of them. They're always it's like watching an old person with a laptop or something, But then there's other people who you can just see that weapon is part of them. Their drills are graceful, and it's like it's like watching a bit of violent ballet. Violent ballet is what it's like. But you know what I mean? So I get what you're saying. There's some people just aren't there's not that natural affinity towards it. Like some people don't get music. Some people could never make music. It's the same with soldiering or whatever. Some people are more prone, just have this kind of I think a natural kind of gift towards it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. I definitely didn't. I had to work. I had to work. Yeah. I mean, I was always a decent athlete growing up. Played a lot of sports, but I was never the star. You know what I mean? I was I was usually a starter, but not like the guy.
Isn't that what you get a lot of in the infantry and special? Because I say quite a lot that you know, especially infantry guys, special forces guys, are athletes who weren't good enough to go pro.
Yeah, decent amount probably. Yeah. That's a good point. Haven't really thought of it like that. A lot of them are not. Some of them like, how are you sloppy bodied, like knock kneed, awkward as hell? I'm like, how is this person?
It's like watching
but
Tyson Fury.
But most of those guys,
Fury the other week, if you looked at him body wise,
no.
But like guys,
I'm sure he works his ass off.
Exactly, he's a supreme athlete, but he just has a dad bod, and is an absolute
some of these guys
and is an absolute killer.
Some of these guys, no matter how hard they work, they limp across that finish line on PT test or a long ruck march just in time. But they made it. You know, they made the time standards. They find a way, but they're good at other things. Those are a lot of them. Like one of our medics when I was deployed. You know, he was a stellar medic. He just was in shit shape. You know what I mean? But when it came down to like being on the battlefield, like that's the dude you want. You know,
there's also there's always the fit fat guys. There's some guys who are always fit, like,
how are you running that fast?
You don't know how they do it, but they'll never fail any fitness test. They'll never drop out of anything, and they're fat as fuck and they eat shit. Like those guys exist. Yeah, and those are the guys when they get out of the military, they just like you'll see.
Those are probably the guys who almost made it to the pros but didn't.
Yeah,
you know, like that guy's like a middle linebacker or something.
You'll see them a year or two later, and they'll be huge because like now they don't need to do because like they'll be the people who they never choose to go and do their own PT.
Right.
It's always just if they have to, and then once they get out and they don't have to do it anymore, boom, the fucking balloon, boom. Yeah,
that's the word.
So, so obviously this idea of joining Special Forces direct is not something that would be familiar to British listeners because we don't do that. You know, you've got to have served.
Well, that only came about, I think, in 2003,
and it was
kind of during the surge.
Desperate for
needed more bodies, and they'd done it in the past. They did it in Vietnam as well.
Right.
And part of it is, you're losing guys. That is a legit part of it. It's not the biggest part though. The biggest part, they want to bolster the unit, and they want to be able to give some of those guys respite that are on those back-to-back deployments, you know. So the idea was we're gonna build another battalion within each special forces group. They had 3 battalions. We're gonna make a 4th. So to jump those numbers up, they didn't want to lower the standards. And they wanted to have regular army guys in as well. But also part of it is they know there's a lot of people out there on the streets that are gonna join the military because of 9/11, because we're at war, because the surge is happening. We're sending more troops to Iraq, more troops to Afghanistan. So we're going to get the types of people that typically wouldn't join the military because, I mean, they got their sights set on Wall Street or something. Yep. You know what I mean? And now they're joining because of the current state of affairs in our country and more patriotic reasons. And maybe these guys are not only like in good physical shape, but they're outside the box thinkers. You know what I mean? They're looking at things a different way. They've had to live out on their own for a while after high school, maybe, you know, or college degree or whatever it is.
Would you say they're older?
A lot of them were, yeah. I think when they initially started, I think you had to be 21, nice. And then they dropped that to like 19, and then down to 18 eventually. But still, like it was encouraged. Like if you had any college credits, if you were a little bit older, and then you would take more than just the ASVAB. You took like a psych eval, language aptitude test, all these things like that. You had to pass with certain marks on that. You know, they wanted to see how quick you pick things up, and looking at things differently, thinking of things differently. So that was part of it, just to get that contract before you went to basic training, and that was essential, man. And there was a lot of 18 X-rays initially. Of course, understandably, the regular Army guys just hated us. You know, because it's just like, I mean, part of it's maybe
you feel like you haven't paid your dues.
Part of it, yeah, exactly. Part of it I was gonna say is maybe jealousy of the opportunity, but also part of it is like we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Dude,
yet.
I'm fucking jealous of it.
You know,
I'm jealous of that opportunity.
But a lot of it too is like to their point, like we don't know what we're doing. It takes a bit to figure it out. The military, you don't just like you don't change it. We're not gonna come in and like we're changing the game here. We're doing it different. Yeah. It's not gonna be like that. So you know the scrutiny whether we're going to be able to adapt, and a lot of guys didn't do very well, and that's understandable. I mean, I had plenty of guys when I was going through the Q course that I knew just didn't like me because I made fun of everything. You know, I didn't always have the best military bearing, but that's just who I am. And there were certain guys that were regular Army though before that loved that about me because it was different. It was refreshing in some ways. You know what I mean? But I know I pissed a lot of people off, and I hope most of those people I made amends with, but I just had I just carry myself in a different way, man. I have a very dark sense of humor, which a lot of people in the military have anyway. Yeah. But you know, I that's how I get through stuff.
But
man.
I think in America, more so than the UK, you got some people who are just like honor, dignity, respect, and like it's like, no, you must honor the uniform at all times. And like if you make a little joke about things, they take it like it's like if you made the joke about the mother, you know. And I think there's that kind of like they can't disassociate and just see something as a joke. It's like the beyond patriotism thing, because it's one thing to love your country and stuff, and then there's another to like
it's just self-pride,
and we see it a lot. Like you know, all right, we'll jump into this now because it's something I wanted to bring up with you. I noticed when that Eddie Gallagher thing happened.
Oh yeah.
There were people who would just not accept the fact that an American could commit a war.
Or possibility.
It was exactly. It wasn't like it wasn't. Is he guilty? Is he not guilty?
No,
it was
no
just
matter
like,
what, he's a SEAL. He's a hero.
Yeah, and I was like,
right,
wow,
maybe.
I couldn't get my head around that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I don't know.
I
don't know the guy. I don't know the story.
He's
that
a human
well.
being. And as a human being, he has the capability for good and evil, like we all do. Every single one of us. We've all fucking made mistakes. He might have been a great guy who made one mistake one day.
Right.
You know, but like there's all these different possibilities.
That's just our country.
But it was
though,
just
dude.
like, but that's
one of the big issues here. It's like we take a side. Everyone wants to do is take a side. It's like, you know, we're all for him or all against him. And the same thing happens when there is a police-involved shooting, for instance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's all every one of those situations. Just people is black and white. You know, they demonize one side or the other.
Yeah.
Period. And they just do what they can to discredit. It's like politics. It's the same thing. I'm like, we're pretty much all politicians when it comes down to those things, man. Yeah. We just want to sling mud, dig in, and prove why we're right, the other person's wrong. It doesn't matter the facts. The facts don't matter.
I have a theory that
no one does it with patience either. They just do it immediate. It's an immediate response. It's like, well, let's just see.
Yeah.
Let's just give it a second.
Yeah. I have a theory that America needs to be constantly at war, because if it's not, it'll fall or it go to war with itself. Is my theory. Guys, you look at it like there's not many periods where America hasn't been at war. When it has, it's been like civil war. Yeah. And now it's like real. But like you said, it's like very much a team kind of thing. And it's when you.
Oh, dude, we're a country full of winners.
But
you know what I mean? It's in our blood, and it's like banged into our heads since we're a little kid, and it's.
Well, it was, but I don't think it is anymore.
It's still it. Well, you're right with the trophy thing.
Yeah, I don't think it is, and that's what again. But that comes down to the side thing, because it's very much. I do think it was everyone was on that same sheet pretty much, but now some people are for participation trophy like culture.
Well, that's because that doesn't mean they still want to be. That still means they want to be winners. They just don't want to have any losers. We can't afford to have any losers. We don't want to call somebody a loser.
I don't know, dude. I think like
losing's great.
I think there's a lot of like. I think it's
need to lose.
Look, not everyone is like. The fact is, we could just drive down the street now, and we're going to see a lot of people who are not winners. You know, like that's.
I'm sitting across from one right now.
Yeah, fuck you. You come on my podcast, not the other way around, motherfucker. You came to me.
That's false.
Okay, well, let's just say I had some incriminating evidence about you and your aspiring porn career. But dude, it's. I think that America is like. Is a freak of nature in a way, because it happened so quickly and became like so like whereas Europe, you know, you developed over centuries and you have all these like states with national power, you know, they're national states. In America, you've got these states which really in a lot of ways are like different countries, but because people have a common language and common history, you know, it's all one country. But you know, like I've been lucky enough to bounce around American quite a lot. I mean, dude, there's a big difference. You're from Northern California. There's a difference between Northern California and Southern California.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like I don't think America is going to be. I don't think we'll see it in our lifetime, but I'd be amazed if in 150 years America still looks like it does.
Of course it won't. Didn't look like this 150 years ago.
Exactly.
Why would it look the same?
But it won't. But I think that's something that people should consider going through life, because there's ways of doing things. There's change is inevitable, right? So it's like, how do you grease the wheels to make sure that it happens smoothly and peacefully?
It's impossible.
Well, I don't know. Look what's happening with Scotland. You know, with Scotland and the UK.
I have no idea what's happening with Scotland and the UK.
It's because you're American. You don't look outside your own borders.
No,
it's exactly the fucking
seven
problem.
people. 7 people
Unless
live in
you're
Scotland.
Shoot people. You don't.
7
care.
people. Scotland's like South Dakota.
No, they had a couple of wee barons last year. They're up to 9. But yeah, I think it's again it's something like you can understand that, bro. I've said this to a lot. I've ran that point by a lot of Americans. Like, no, it's impossible. I'm like, well, it's not impossible. Every country changes shape. But I think it's one of the it's been one of the strengths.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's impossible to do it absolutely smoothly. That exist. Anyway.
But it's been one of America's strengths. That kind of like its size has been its strength and things. But I think as there's this divergence now between the states. I think that I kind of think this days are numbered. Really, America's, which is I don't think is a particularly good thing because there's always got to be someone's got to be top dog in the world. And
I was just going to say, as America goes, so goes the world.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, for now, because it's a rotation. Someone else will become top dog, and you don't really see any contenders that you would necessarily consider benevolent, right now.
It's kind of like the last several presidential elections.
Yeah. What do you mean?
There's just lesser of two evils, or 17 evils, or 50 evils, or whatever.
Yeah.
Just nobody's been super inspiring to me.
One of the things I find interesting about the States, dude, there's nobody, like, I hear people talking about how the two parties need to work together more and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, all
get rid of the two parties. That's what we need to do.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't hear many people going like, well, why can't we get rid of these two parties and have a different fucking system? Like, the idea that two parties represent
it's awful, man. That's why everything's black or white, red or blue, one side or the other, because every single major topic of contention is like, if you're on one side, you have to believe all those things they believe, and if you're on the other side, you have to believe all those things they believe. You cannot be a free thinker.
Which is ridiculous.
Can't be an individual.
Which is ridiculous.
It's stupid.
Like the idea
I
that
know.
you can, the idea
Trust
that
me.
so if you talk to your group, like anyone talk to their group of friends or family, you'll have things that you'll agree on, you'll have things that you don't agree on.
Totally.
So the idea that you can have a fucking party that represents everything you think is nuts. I mean, again, there's fucking clever people.
Unless you genuinely believed all those things, but there's no freaking way, head to toe. People they're like, well, I'm just gonna go this way because that's the way my party goes.
Yeah.
Because we're stupid.
Yeah. But I just think like there must be some way of like in this day and age of having a way of voting where it's like you vote on issues rather than for a single party, and you know that you can vote issue by issue. I'm not saying every issue either, because I think there's some things that just like, look, just let the fucking experts take care of certain things. But if we, if you had a vote whereby, you could say, right, well, 70% of the nation feels this way about gun control, and then have that issue by issue, rather than it being you've got to choose the Democratic or the Republican side of it, and then do things that way. I don't know, dude. I just want Skynet. I want Skynet to take over. I've had enough of this stuff. It just seems like that Mike Bloomberg thing recently. 500 million dump just down the drain on advertising, and then he drops out the race. I'm like, fuck. Like a lot of these issues that you're talking about as a candidate, you could have fucking solved one of them with that 500 million instead of buying fucking ad space.
Well, there was, and I don't know the accuracy of this, but I remember reading about.
Doesn't matter, mate. We do not fact check on
That's
this.
true. Good. No one does. No one does anyway. People just hear things and are like, it must be true. It was like roughly $40 billion, which, yes, that's a big number, but Zuckerberg has that. You know what I mean? Roughly $40 billion would, at a fundamental level, solve the world's clean water, hunger, basic shelter, basic education, and basic medical care issues for everybody in the world. Like, that's not that much. Yeah. I don't know if that's an annual number or whatever. It's still not that much. Like compared to, we're 20 trillion in debt. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, whatever. What's another 40 billion?
Yeah.
So like, that's crazy to me. And also, I don't think solve's probably a terrible word to use. I said solve. It would mitigate it, or it would put a Band-Aid on it, maybe, right? Yeah. But at the same time, like, what's the most important thing in the world? What's the most important thing in the world? Like, is it, can you pay your car off? Is it all these things? Or is it the people that are literally, dying all over the planet, not before this coronavirus freak out? Now that it's personal and everyone's like personally and maybe affected, now everyone like cares. But, what about the rest of the world all the time?
Well, dude, that's one of the things we say.
Constantly like dying from hunger and disease and like the clean water crisis, all these things.
We
talk about it and we do an event maybe and like whatever, but no one really gives a damn.
Like malaria you had, right? How many people die of malaria each year?
I have no idea, but I'm sure it's a ton.
So it's got to be hundreds of thousands, isn't it? Probably. But like, there are these things, like you said, these things are out there killing people in droves and constantly, like hunger. constantly. And I think, it's we have a very selfish look on it. The other thing as well is something like this coronavirus I never even thought of until today when I was just tuning in the radio for a little bit. It's because I'm from the UK. I just assume, anyone gets sick, they go and get treatment, don't they? Well, it's not the case here, because I was listening on the radio about, they were talking about how they want to make it so that anybody that thinks they got coronavirus can get checked up, and even if they've got insurance or not. And I was like, fuck, I hadn't even thought about that. That in America, like, you got to have fucking insurance for, for the whole thing.
Right.
And it does blow my mind, like, in America, that there's not like a universal healthcare thing.
Yeah, but it would be a nightmare, dude.
But it just amazes me. This is one of those things where I think about.
I go to the VA.
Well, yeah, you go.
That's a small cross section of the country.
You go to the VA, which I think.
But the care's not very good, man. It's like tough.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's good, and I'm not saying that the NHS care is great everywhere.
Right.
But the fact is, it's there. You know, and to be honest, mate, as an American, like, I think, regardless of how you felt about your country, for the GI Bill and VA, it's worth doing a few fucking years. You could be a fucking pogue.
Sure.
You could just get a pogue job. Because I know people have said, I thought about doing it for the VA and GI Bill, but, I didn't want to get sent to war.
It's not like,
look, if you're fucking
it's not like you get free healthcare at the VA just out the door. It's only for not pre-existing conditions. It's only for service-connected issues. I can't just go there because I don't feel well.
Can you not?
No, if I go there because I don't feel well and I get meds, I have to pay for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No, I didn't know.
I can use the VA, but like I don't get, unless you're 100% disabled, you don't just get free health care.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
out the door. It's only for stuff that's related to you. So I go there for my back because I got jacked up back, and other stuff, whatever.
Herpes.
Post-traumatic stress. No, not that.
Yeah, you contracted herpes on tour, so it's
Jay Glazer claims that herpes actually cures the coronavirus. So,
did you really?
No.
Sure.
Yeah, you just really.
I was like, I'm not sure if I trust that.
You're like, I'm good. I saw that on your face.
Today's podcast is made possible in part thanks to Frontier Risks Group, home of the world's leading practical training course in security risk management consultancy. Frontier Risks Group is an amalgamation of a number of leading companies in their fields, guided by a team of equal experience and expertise in their respective domains. From security and crisis management, corporate risk, intelligence and analysis, compliance, workplace investigations, trauma response, and training consultancy. If you are a veteran or if you will be transitioning out of the military, then you need to check these guys out, regardless of your rank or background. Some of Frontier Risk's former students now work as security risk managers, advisors, travel risk managers, security analysts for some of the world's biggest organizations, such as Netflix, BBC, CNN, Deloitte, BAE Systems, Apple, and many, many more, including travel expert companies. You can learn more about Frontier Risks Group at frontierrisks.com. That's frontierrisks, one word, .com. Check them out, guys. They're a fantastic company if you are looking for courses or if you're looking for careers or if you are looking for consultancy. Get over there, check them out, frontierrisks.com. This episode is also brought to you in part by Altberg Boots, specialist boot makers who have been in the game for over 40 years. They make super alley boots. They make alley boots for civvies. All right, if you're a civvy, you might not know what alley means. It means cool. They make alley boots for civvies. They make alley boots for serving military. They make alley boots for cadets. If you got a pair of feet, they make fucking boots for you, all right? So check them out. They got them in all kinds of different colors, all kinds of different fits, lightweight, heavyweight, whatever you want, bada bing, bada boom. Get some fucking Altbergs on your feet. I've used them for, Christ, I don't know. I'm old, right? I've used them for a long time. And, yeah, I'm a bit tight, but I put my hands in my pocket and bought a pair of Altbergs. Do you know why? Because they protect my ankles and they looked cool as fuck. So get yourself some Altbergs. Head over to altberg.co.uk. Alley boots on your feet. Let's do it. This podcast is made possible in part thanks to Zulu Alpha Strap Company. Bombers watch straps for alley blokes. It's a veteran-owned company, but you don't need to be a veteran to have a cool fucking watch strap to go with your timepiece. You might have spent a lot of money on it, on your watch that is, so protect it. And even if you've got a shit watch, get one of these, and then you won't look like such a cheap fucker. You can see these watches on the wrists of frontline operators around the globe. Where can you do that? At Zulu Alpha Straps. Go over there, take a look at some kinky pictures, then maybe even order yourself a strap. All right, so let's talk about then what part of like unique to your story. I don't think anybody else has really done this. So there may be a couple other people, maybe, but though you went from the military to professional sports,
college sports first.
Oh, okay. Well, that's part of the story, I guess, isn't it? So let's talk us through that. Keep in mind that British listeners won't understand the NCAA and stuff.
Yeah, they
so
don't speak American.
Yeah, we don't speak American. Don't speak college slavery.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they just canceled the NCAA tournaments, so basketball.
So now they don't get. Yeah. Now they don't get.
You're free.
Any glory either. Yeah. So go on. Talk us through.
Yeah. So I was 28, turning 29, I guess. I was 28 during my last deployment. During deployment to Iraq, I was 28 years old. About halfway through the deployment, I remember I was up for reenlistment, and so I was like a year out, and Team Sergeant asked me if I wanted to reenlist. I should do it overseas because if there's a bonus, I get it tax free and blah blah blah. And I considered it, thought about it for a bit, but then also, so growing up, I played every sport, right? Almost every sport you can imagine, except for football. I never played football, and I regretted it because it was my favorite sport.
What was the reason behind not playing it?
When I was really young, my mom didn't want me to play. Like, you can start playing when you're like 8 years old, which is probably a little young for kids to be banging helmets, especially back then, the way they were coaching it. It's like spearing each other. You know what I mean? And so I didn't do it then. And then by the time I was like in middle school, and I probably could if I wanted to, I was so into baseball and basketball. I was playing soccer as well, football, or whatever y'all call it.
I call it fucking gay.
Okay. So
I like rugby.
So I didn't do it because I was like, well, I won't catch up to these other kids. I wasn't very big either. And I wasn't, like I said, I was a decent athlete. I wasn't like a great athlete. If I was dominating at everything, then I would have done it, no issue. But I was just really focused on baseball and basketball mostly. And so then I get into high school, didn't play there, thought about it again. Like, man, I should try out for the team. I should just do it. And I just didn't. I just chickened out, man. And I regretted it. It was one of my biggest regrets is not playing football, which is, I know it sounds like ridiculous, but I'm in my late 20s now, and I'm like, I still regret it. It still bothered me. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to reenlist. I'll transition into the National Guard, and I'll go back to college, try out for the team wherever I go.
So football was a driving force in you going back to college?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
To be honest, that's really it.
I think sports is the coolest thing about the American college system. The sports system in like the American colleges is one of the best things about college. Yeah, because there's a lot of reasons.
So you're saying you support slavery?
Yeah. Wait. There's a lot of reasons to not go to college now, but one of the things that offsets it, I think, is one, if you got a scholarship, which quite often comes through sports, but even like in the position of being a walk-on, I think that opportunity to have
it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, man. I think like if you're not going to get that really anywhere else. There's not really outside the professional sports. There's not really anywhere you can.
Even the scholarships, man. Like, I mean, I know that's a very hot topic, but you get your education paid for as an 18-year-old kid. A lot of these guys wouldn't get into college, a college of that level, without the sport they played. And then you do get stipend. I mean, you make some money while you're there, so you can pay for whatever, so you don't have to get a job. You can get through. You can live while playing sports for the school and getting that education with potentially having hopes of playing professionally, depending on the sport. And that's really awesome, man. That's a rare thing, because if it doesn't work out, then you've got potentially this great education from a university and opportunities and job placement, like hookups, connections because of the sports that you played. Like it's a good deal.
How much of that education is actually, how much of that education is like, let's say you're Division I athlete who's like who's come on a scholarship. Are they actually getting that education?
It's up to them, man. It's up to them. You got to be self motivated. I mean, like there's
but I mean,
plenty of guys.
Is it even
there's
possible?
tons of guys.
Is it even possible with the amount of like?
Yeah, there's guys who got business degrees that were on scholarship. They got business degrees, went on to play in the NFL, and then further did other stuff. There's one of like this brilliant mathematician now that went to Penn State, John Urschel. He played in the NFL for a bit, and now he's like math whiz. Who knows what he's probably working for NASA or the NSA or something. Yeah. Anyway, so it was a cool opportunity. I was using the GI Bill to go back to school, and I just walked on, tried out for the team at University of Texas. And just because of my work ethic, the shape I was in at that time, even though I hadn't played, I didn't tell anybody that I hadn't played before. I let that one.
So what did you when you go to walk on like these trials? Is there a particular position you're going for, or are you just trying to get onto the squad?
Yeah, at first you're just trying to get onto the squad because it's mostly conditioning. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're running the hell out of you to make sure that you're going to hold up, because in their mind you're an asset to the team because you're going to be on the scout team. You know what I mean? So you're basically going to be a tackling dummy or a practice dummy for the starters to you learn the offense or the defense of the team they're about to play the next week, and then you do that during the week to give them a good look, so they like kind of see some of those coverages if you're a quarterback receiver. If it's the defense, then you're running the other team's offense so they can see what type of stuff you do. And, we study film. You study the other team's film, and then you like go pretend to be them basically. And your job is to just get run over with dignity. You know what I mean? That's pretty much what it is. And, but once in a while, one of those walk-ons earns a spot playing, usually on special teams or something like that, and then eventually a scholarship, and sometimes they become. I mean, Baker Mayfield was a walk-on.
Was he?
He was. Yeah, he had opportunities at smaller schools, scholarship offers, but he wanted to go to a Big 12 school. So he started out at Texas Tech, walked on there, earned a scholarship, and then they started a different quarterback instead of him. So he transferred to OU as a walk-on, walked on there, earned a scholarship, and then won the Heisman Trophy. You know what I mean? Cool. And then was the first pick in the draft. Like crazy. Yeah. So that's probably the greatest example, at least in recent history, of a walk-on that like truly made it. But for me, I'm not Baker Mayfield. I'm not a great athlete. Like I'm a decent athlete. And so I was just at first just happy to be on the team, happy that I made it. And then it was like after that first season, I got to play in one game on Veterans Day. I get to run down on kickoff coverage. And just the adrenaline, 100,000 people in the stands, and like.
I've been in that Texas Stadium with you. Like for people listening, we're not talking about, because people listening might not have an idea of the scale. We're talking about bigger than any stadium in the UK, packed. Yeah, and it's all home fans, pretty much.
Right. It's cool. It's a great stadium, man. It's beautiful. It's better than most NFL stadiums, to be honest. So, I wanted to try to find a way on the field. I caught the bug, not the coronavirus, the football, like the playing bug, game day bug. And so I started long snapping because the starting long snapper was graduating and his backup was graduating. And for those that don't know, long snapper is basically, on a typical play, there's the center who snaps the ball, hikes the ball through his legs to the quarterback to start the play. Well, every play except for kickoffs is started by someone snapping it through their legs. On a punt or a field goal or an extra point, whenever it's a kicking play that's not kicked off a tee, the center snaps it a longer distance. The punter stands about 15 yards or 13 and a half meters.
What was that, French?
I don't know. Yeah. From the center, the punter stands that far, and you snap it through your legs, and it's got to be a spiral, on a line. You're trying to snap it right in their hip pocket, and then they kick the ball away. On field goals and extra points, it's 7 to 8 yards. You snap it to the holder. He plants the ball on the ground, and the kicker kicks it through the uprights. So it's a specialized position. And on punts, after you snap it, you have to block, and then you run down and try to make a tackle. On field goals and extra points, you snap it, and you just stand there and block. And the interesting part about doing it on field goals, being my size, Gaz, you're bigger than I am. I'm taller probably, but you got a bigger belly. But I'm not a big guy. I'm not a big guy, and I put some weight on to play in college. I put a lot on to play at the next level. But
you say you went up to? Oh no, so
in college I was up to at the most probably about 200, but I was typically around 190, 195, which is not very big. No. And I'm standing next to 300+ pound guys that are playing guard and tackle on my left and right, helping me, block. And so I kept that run over with dignity phrase in the back of my mind, because it was like, as long as a kick doesn't get blocked, I win, even if I get trampled. You know what I mean? But that's the goal. Take the charge, like they do in basketball. And but I started working on the long snapping, and in the summers I was still getting deployed overseas through the National Guard. So I'd go back over to first couple years I actually went over to Bulgaria and Greece on like peacekeeping missions with the Bulgarian and Greek special forces. And then the last 2 summers before my junior and senior year, I went to Afghanistan, both years. So I would bring a couple footballs with me, and I'd build a target out of plywood or something, and I would practice long snapping overseas during the summer. But that first year, when I went overseas, I told Mac Brown, who was the head coach then, and now he's the North Carolina head coach, I told him I wanted to try out for the long snap, or I asked him if I could try out for the long snapping position when I got back. And he said, yeah, sure, just be safe over there and come back. And in the back of his mind, he was just like, you're dreaming. Like it's not going to happen. You're not going to figure it out in a few months. But I snapped 100 balls a day, man. I equated it to learning to shoot a pistol. I'd never shot a pistol before I joined the military. But I ended up being a pretty good pistol shot because I focused on all the little pieces of the movement. You know what I mean? From drawing to putting it up in the box, to trigger squeeze, to aim point, all those little things, over and over and over, repetition. And with long snapping, it was like making sure I had that grip right. I would lay down on my cot when I had free time, and I would just spin the ball above my head until I was like spinning spirals, Yeah. And then I would go snap 100 balls a day into the plywood target, and it wasn't considered a successful snap unless it went through the hole that I'd built. You know what I mean?
Right. So you had to do 100 successful ones.
Yeah. I mean, that was starting out, and it was like it'd take a long time. Some days I didn't hit the mark because it's just like the sun's setting, I got to go on mission, or I got something to do. But I just kept doing it. I just kept trying. Focused on the spiral, focused on speed of the snap, focused on accuracy, trying different techniques. I was using YouTube videos and Googling like how to long snap and watching all these videos. And eventually started to get decent hang of it. Came back that training camp and ended up winning the backup job through training camp, beating out about 10 other guys. First game of the year, they recruited this freshman kid to come do it. Really nice kid, but doing something in front of 100,000 people was hard. It's, challenging. And he didn't have the best game that first game, so I got to start the next game and ended up starting 38 straight for the rest of my career.
Go take your shot.
Yeah.
When you get it.
Yeah, exactly.
You get. That's the thing. You might not be in the front in the pecking order, but you need to be ready to step up and do the next person's job. And that goes for anything. It's like if it's whatever, because these opportunities, when they come along, you have to be ready, because they will come along. There's always going to be times like right now. Like let's making joking apart about the coronavirus. There's going to be some people that are working from home now because a lot of offices are kicked out. There's going to be some people that slack off, go out drinking or drink at home and phone it in. And there's going to be other people who take this opportunity to maybe shine and and when they come back into work, might have cemented themselves in a new position through this.
Yeah.
And it's you got to be ready for those chances and take them when they come along. What's it like? What was your kind of method of keeping like you said in front of 100,000 people, like doing what you were doing? There's a lot of pressure on that. Like literally every set of eyes is on you, and if you fuck up, everyone's going to know about it. How did you deal with that kind of pressure?
Well, I mean, the repetition and preparation helps a lot. When you do it so many times that it becomes mechanical, you don't have to think about it, right? Yeah. So when I'd sit there, and I'd lean over the ball, I get my grip going. I address it the same way every time. I imagine much like a professional golfer does his like routine before he hits a golf ball. I mean, I played in this this Pro-Am tournament up at Riviera recently, and I sucked. And I'm not that bad of a golfer, but I didn't play very well, probably because I've never played under pressure. I've never played under people, and I don't have those solidified routines and like what's my thought process going into this, right? So I do that. I get over the ball. I have my little way I'd like tap my toe before I squat down. I get the grip. I look up at the line in front of me, defensive line, to see which way they're sort of stacking, to know which way, after I snap this, I'll probably have to lean for the block, right? And then I put down, look through my legs at the holder and pick a really small spot on his glove hand that he'd have planted on the ground, right? And sometimes it was just the top of he'd plant his hand like a upside down V. It's like the apex of that, V. Maybe there's a Nike check on the glove or something. And I just stare that damn thing down until I hear the snap count or see his hand out of my periphery come up to snap it. I stare that thing down, and as soon as I get that sort of opportunity to release a ball, it's just like the quickest thing ever. I don't even think about it. It happens so fast. It's like, I imagine how someone on the starting blocks, a swimmer, and waiting for that gun. As soon as the gun goes off, it's just that instinct. You just freaking fire out of there.
That's come from the reps, isn't it?
Totally.
That's the only way to get that. The only way to get that. I'll tell you what we can relate it to veteran-wise is that reaction to effective enemy fire. When you're doing the training, you do all those training. You do training and exercises with blanks again and again and again, so that when you hear that bang, bang, you return fire before you and then you're getting on the floor before you even know you've done it.
Right.
Because if you have to think about that.
And even so, in combat, the first time,
you
still think about it. But once you've been in a few gunfights, then it's like it's more.
But the reason it's different in combat is because the noise isn't the same. Because when someone's firing blanks at you, you just hear that bang. When you hear that going past, you're like, oh, what's that? Oh, fuck. Because that's the difference. Because it's very hard to simulate shooting past somebody's. I think once. Like the way that they're bringing in like augmented reality and stuff now, that will be able to be something that people can start. That you'll be able to have augmented reality where you hear that and you see dirt coming up around you and that kind of thing.
But still, the knowledge that you're not going to die versus I might die, makes you react.
I do think it will reduce the fraction of a second time. True. Because it's like you'll have heard those sounds of rounds going, rounds going like right by your head because. Right. It's that sound is new to you, right? So you're like, oh, what's going on here? Oh, well, someone's trying to shoot me, because it's like you hear that before you hear before you actually hear, the what you heard in training, that kind of like the clatter. So you played at Texas. Fair to say you made success of that. Then, what was the next step for you?
Well. See, I finished my senior year at 30. I was 33 when I finished my senior year, and we didn't have a very good season. We had a new coach come in. We limped our way to a bowl game. We had a bunch of players suspended through the season, different things, and then we got destroyed in our bowl game. We played Arkansas. They beat the hell out of us, and it was just like, I was like, man, this kind of not a great ending to the career. And I kind of thought that was it, and then. I got a call shortly after with an opportunity to play in the one of the senior all-star games. They have usually about 3 of them every year. And the big one is the Senior Bowl. And then they have the East-West Shrine game. It wasn't either of those two. It was one they don't even have anymore. I think it was in its second or third year at the time. But they played it at the Citadel out in Charleston, which is a military academy. And the game was called the Medal of Honor Bowl. And it was actually like all these Medal of Honor recipients, the Medal of Honor Society, came to the game. And they were like, I don't know if they were the title sponsor or they're just the namesake for the game. Probably just the namesake. And so the way that works is you go out there. It's a bunch of other seniors. Most of the guys I was playing with were either going to be drafted in the middle to late rounds or undrafted free agents. And they had scouts from every NFL team, Canada.
So how did you get onto it then? Because you weren't projected to be drafted. So.
No. Well, they just they need long snappers for even those games, right?
And was it because you were was the military connection something to do with it? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I was definitely like a pretty good long snapper, but I was not. I don't know I wasn't. I should have been in the top 6 if I went to one of those 3. Right. And I don't think I was. I probably maybe top 20. I don't know. But I did play and started for 3 years at a school like Texas, and I did well. So like, that's seen as valuable. But I didn't have the size. I didn't have the experience. Having only played for 3 years. But they knew I had the work ethic. The story helped, the background. My age didn't help me. But, yeah, I think because of that game.
Like, just to give people context. Sorry to interrupt me.
Yeah.
But just to give people context, you're a decade older or more than these other guys.
Yeah.
Like, most of these guys are, 21, 22?
Yeah,
23?
when I was a freshman, I was 29, and most freshmen were 18.
Right.
So my senior, when I was 33 when I was done, and most of those guys were 22, So I was basically 11 years older than the average college football player through the whole time. So I get out to get out there, and they have practices all week. You have like 4 or 5 practices during the week, and the scouts all come to the practices because that's where the real competition happens. Not that we're not competing in the game, like we're playing for sure, but the game's more about like it's just kind of fun. You know what I mean? It's like an all-star game.
Yeah.
Well, it is an all-star game, but it's like an all-star game in like the NFL or basketball. It's more competitive than that, but still, it's like no one really cares if they win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
But in all the practice reps, my guys are out there trying to beat one another. Whoever's across the ball from you, like you're trying to show off for these scouts, right? Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's like 100 of them there from all these different teams. And throughout the week, they interview the players as well, And I got interviewed by 4 different teams while I was there. And honestly, when it first happened, I was kind of like, I'd appreciated it, but I thought I was like, wow, they're just being nice. You know what I mean? They just want to hear my story. Because at 34, it's like that's older than 95% of the NFL. You know what I mean? And so I'm sitting down with teams like the Dolphins and I think the Arizona Cardinals and the Chicago Bears, maybe the Vikings. I can't remember exactly who. The Browns too. And I looked at those rosters, and actually, like most of their snappers were older guys that are maybe going to retire, or the spot wasn't solidified. So I was like, that's interesting. Maybe they are sort of interested in me. And so in these interviews, as we got later into them, I was asking, like, do you think I have a legitimate shot? Like, what do you think? And they were like, yeah, I think you do. You are older, but you're a good snapper, and you're a decent athlete. Some of the long snappers in the league aren't the best athletes. It's all about the consistency of that snap and if you can block or not. But you're going to have to put some weight on. So got done with that, came out to L.A., started training at Unbreakable Performance Center, which is Jay Glazer's gym. And I put on about 30 pounds in roughly 4 months. And it wasn't all good weight. But I had to, just to get an opportunity. I knew I had to be at least 220. And I think when we got around to pro day, I was like 219, I think, for pro day. And went out there for pro day back at Texas, where basically it's players from Texas that are draft eligible that have a chance of maybe making it. And once again, scouts will come out and they clock you on different drills and stuff like that, and then you snap. And did well there too. And then the draft rolls around, and they go through all 7 rounds, and I didn't get drafted. I was talking to a couple teams, but they didn't do it, which I totally understand. Long snappers rarely get drafted anyway. There's maybe one a year. Sometimes there's none. And as soon as the last pick in the draft was made, my phone rang, and I got a call from this St. Louis Rams, and they said they wanted to sign me. And I was like, that's awesome. I really appreciate that, And so I called my agent and all that, and he's like, yeah. He's like, I think they do. And he's like, but I think you're about to get another call too. So just hold off on that. You don't need to make a decision now. You'll have half hour or so to make your pick. Mm-hmm. And the next phone call was from Pete Carroll.
You called yourself?
Yeah,
that's
from the Seahawks. So Pete Carroll called and said he wanted to sign me and give me an opportunity up there in Seattle. And they had been to back-to-back Super Bowls. They were the best team in the NFL. I mean, from Richard Sherman to Marshawn Lynch to Russell Wilson to Michael Bennett to Cam Chancellor to Earl Thomas, Doug Baldwin, Bobby Wagner. Like, they had all the stars, you know what I mean?
It's a hell of a team. It was like that squad then at that time was insane.
Unbelievable. And so I was like, I can't pass that up, even if I don't make it. Because I knew my odds were going to be bad anyway. Like, the chances of me making it all the way through were not great. And so I talked to my dad, asked what he thought, and he said, he's from the Pacific Northwest too. He's from Oregon. But also he was just like, man, all things being equal, like, if I were you, you're going to regret it if you don't go after, chase the greatness there.
Yeah.
And at the time, the St. Louis Rams weren't very good. They were 4-12, I think, the year before. And like I said, the Seahawks been back-to-back Super Bowls. So I called back and said,
I can't name you anyone who was on the St. Louis squad at that time.
You what?
I wouldn't be able to name you
Chris
one.
Long.
Oh, that's was he?
Yeah. You're like, I don't know who that is.
No, he's the tackle.
Yeah, D tackle. No, he was a D end. Kyle Long is the tackle. That's his brother.
Obviously, I didn't know. Which is the one that goes to MVP?
Well, both of them have been, but Kyle.
No, I'm thinking of someone different anyway, aren't I? I'm thinking of what's his name, the big
Andrew Whitworth.
That's who I'm thinking.
Yeah,
of.
he
So I
was
wasn't even thinking about that
he was
person.
at LA Ram.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I did, and I went up to training camp. Went through OTAs, which is sort of the off-season, or organized team activities, I call it. It's off-season training camp without pads, and then you just wear helmets, and then you go into training camp, which is full pads and everything, and then got to play in one preseason game before I got cut. But it was an unbelievable experience, man.
Did you get to run out with the flag?
Yeah, I led the team out with the American flag. Like I did that in college as well, for every game, and this was cool that the team asked me to do that right before the game. Actually, the equipment manager came up, and usually they have an active duty veteran run out with the flag, and they just asked me to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would love to. I had just gotten out of the Guard, so I just finished my service, but so I ran out there led the team out of the tunnel with the flag. I was told before the game, like, they're gonna have the guy that had been there 6 years, a long snapper, was gonna play in the first half, and I was going to play the whole second half. And so I knew I wasn't playing right away, but I'm out there warming up pregame, like nervous as hell, and Peyton Manning standing right next to me throwing balls because it was his last season with the Broncos. Right. They went on to win the Super Bowl that year, right? In his last season. So it was pretty cool. And it was in CenturyLink Field in Seattle. It was raining with the sun out, which is so Seattle. Yeah. And it was full house, even though it was a preseason game, just because the fans are nuts, and they were very good at the time, and they just couldn't, it was the first game of the year. It was an incredible experience, man. I remember being on the sideline during the anthem, and I wasn't really prepared for it because in college, the teams are still in the locker room during the anthem. They don't come out on the field till after. So that was my first time being on the field during the anthem. And, I stood there with my hand on my heart facing the tallest flag in the building, and I just started crying like a baby. Yeah. It was a lot of it was just
understandable, bro.
It was just the emotion of the moment. It was like it's also thinking of the guys in the unit, that were proud of me, whether they were alive or not, because they knew that this was some crazy dream I had, when I was in Iraq. Yeah. But also like thinking about veteran or not, people that don't have a lot of self-worth, which I didn't have before I went to the Darfur, and I had to build that over time and put myself through some tough stuff and get out there and challenge myself to build that self-belief. And also just like proud to be there and have that chance, man, and proud of myself, selfishly, I guess. It was just crazy, man. I'd never. The only other time I cried during the anthem was after SEER school when they liberated us and the flag went up. But that's because I was just totally destroyed.
Yeah, for people listening, that's the basic survive. Was it survive, escape, resist, evade?
Exactly it. Survival, evasion, resist, and escape. Yep.
Yeah. So
it's like a mock POW camp.
Mock POW camp, and then when they raise the flag at the end, that means it's the end. So
and almost everybody cries,
Right, bro. Like we got 1,000,001 things we could talk about to go going on. So, have you got anything burning you'd want to talk about for the 10 minutes that you got urgent stuff to put out? If not, then I'll pick MVP otherwise. Yeah. But if you've got if you have,
I'll talk about Waterboys real quick before MVP, and then we'll end with MVP. Okay. So Waterboys. Speaking of Chris Long, and like circling back to Africa, which is pretty cool. In 2000, and I think he established it in maybe 2014 or 15. While I was with the Seahawks, Chris was following my story. He was playing for the St. Louis Rams at the time, and he had been to Tanzania before, and it was sort of like it was a trip called like Pros for Africa or something, and he got to climb Mount Kilimanjaro and spend time with the people, but he felt leaving there kind of guilty, like I got to experience this place and meet these people, but what can I do for them further? So he started a clean water initiative where he was going to raise money amongst the 32 NFL teams for 32 clean water wells to be put in East Africa, specifically Tanzania first. That was his goal, initial goal, which he's surpassed since then. Well, after I got cut, literally the next day, when I'm just like, what do I do now? You know what I mean? And like thoughts of joining the military again crossed my mind. Yeah. He called me and was like, I'd never met him before. And he was like, hey man, I've been following your story. I think it's awesome. He's like, but what sticks out to me, not that I'm not grateful for your service to the military or to the country in the military, but was your time in the Darfur before, because this is what I'm doing. And he told me about Water Boys. He's like, I want you to be on the team. He's like, I don't even know what that looks like, you know, if you're an ambassador of some type, but if you're interested, I'd love to see if we can work something out. And I said, yeah, that'd be awesome. I said, is there any way we can involve like veterans in it? And he was like, yeah, that'd be great. And I was like, all right, let me think about it. So I like get on a stair climber, and one of the options on the stair climber is Kilimanjaro. Yeah. And it's not really Kilimanjaro, but it's like, you know what I'm talking about. Those like those high tech stair climbers where you can you act like you're climbing the Leaning Tower of Pisa or Kilimanjaro or whatever. And so Kilimanjaro was in Tanzania. I Googled it to double check, but I was pretty sure. Kilimanjaro was in Tanzania, you know, and this is before I knew that he'd gone out and climbed it himself. And I was like, what if I went up there with like a wounded vet, you know, an amputee specifically? I took him up or her up. We climbed the mountain together, but we raised funds in the process. So we let people know, hey, this is what we're doing. Sponsor us, not to pay for our trip, but so we can leave something in that country, like a clean water well. And we had a lot of people on board, including people in my family, people in the military community, but also like Microsoft at the time jumped on board. We did a big fundraiser up there, and we raised enough money for 2 water wells, actually. And so when Blake, the first guy I took, Blake and I went out there, just me and him, we go out and we get to visit these villages and the people and see the impact it makes, that clean water. It changes their lives. And it's something we've talked about a couple times in this podcast, but it was also like circling back to initially why I wanted to serve my country. You know what I mean? To provide, I shouldn't call them luxuries because they should just be basic needs. Yeah, it should be basic. But they are luxuries for these people in these parts of the world that just would never have access to it. Fighting for those that can't fight for themselves. You know, that's like a mantra that I try to live by still. And they saved me. Those people in Africa saved me initially. So this is an opportunity to try and give back and help save them. And that's been really powerful. So now every year we go up with a team, roughly 10 to 12 veterans and NFL players. I think pretty much every year we've had someone that's an amputee. We've had a blind Green Beret. You know, Kirstie Ennis came with us one year. The Green Beret is a guy named Ivan who's unbelievable, man. And he's ran like 60 marathons, and he's a beast. And several others. We had a guy named Doc Jacobs who lives in San Diego who recently came back on his second try and summited this year. But every year the coolest part of the trip is seeing the impact we've made and going back to those villages, getting to hang out with the kids at these schools and orphanages, you know, and they have a clean water, a solar-powered, fully sustainable clean water well on site. And that's why they built the school there. You know what I mean? So it's like it impacts the community in so many other ways. So that's really cool. And then MVP, which you've been to. Let me hear your quick take on MVP, man.
Well, if you want to learn more about MVP, you should pick up Brothers in Arms by Geraint Jones, because I do talk about it in there. I'm a big fan, dude. Like, one of the things I think is the biggest challenge facing not only veterans but people in general is purpose, right? Now, you don't have too much time to worry about purpose when you are living somewhere like Sudan, because your purpose is to go out and get clean water and survive. Yeah. But we do have the luxury of having other things. And if you don't, that's where I think so much mental health problems can come from, is not having a purpose, not having a team around you. Because I think, again, team is something... Okay, people always say from the military, yeah, I missed missed my team. But I think as people, we're supposed to be in teams. We're supposed to be in tribes. You know,
we're pack animals.
All of us are. So it doesn't matter, like military or not. And I think you identified it. My friend Dean Stott's been on the podcast. He talks about it a lot, as well as these similarities between if you come out, because the thing is about military and professional sports people is you had a purpose, and so then it's it's the jarring like loss of purpose, because a lot of people don't have it, but because they've never had it, it's less of a thing. It's just like in the back of your mind rather than this huge thing of, it's basically it's like coming off a drug or something. It's you've had something and all of a sudden you go into this you feel, it's like, you know, you need, for instance, people that smoke or drink every day, they do it to feel normal. They don't get it, they don't get the high off it or whatever. It's just, this is what I do to need to be feel normal. So when you've had that, you know, you've had that in the military, you've had purpose every day. You know, you might not have felt like, you might not have known it at the time, but that deep down you had it, and then you lose that. It's like you don't feel yourself anymore. It's like you feel like a totally different person, and that's where I think a lot of this suicide comes from. Is what's the point? It's not like this.
I'll never do anything as great as I did before.
I'll never do anything as great again. Which, you know, comes down to why I didn't want to, you know, and you're the same. We don't want to just harp on about the old stuff, because if you do that, how are you ever going to rediscover purpose if you are just constantly going on about what you had before? I mean, this is fucking impossible. You can't go forward if you're looking back all the time.
Exactly.
Or you can, you're going to fucking fall on your face. And everyone will laugh at you, including me. So I think what you do is, you know, you bring in some players, so ex-professional players who veterans look up to, and you bring in veterans who, the weird thing is, professional players look up to. So it's like these different groups of people that look up to each other, get them in a mix. The other thing as well is, I've always say this, you know, fucking physical activity is the best medicine. Unless you got broken legs, in which case you probably do some fucking pull-ups if you got it.
Yeah,
that's true. Do some fucking pull-ups.
There's people in there that from all shapes and sizes.
When the great thing about having friends with no arms and legs, no offense to you guys, I wish you hadn't lost them, but you did. Is you taught me a fucking valuable lesson. There's no fucking excuses to not do PT.
Exactly.
If you've got a bad leg, well, guess what? They're missing theirs and they're still getting to the fucking gym.
A lot of those people have done way more physically demanding things since they lost it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like a screw you world, I'm going to find a way. I'm not a quitter. And they've done things they never would have done.
Yeah, you know? and like, you know, I know plenty of people who we're talking mental, I don't want to use the word illness or whatever, mental fucked upness, so PTS or whatever, who've had problems with it, myself included, and people who have had physical injuries say it was the best thing that ever happened to them, because it then made them go into that fuck you mode. But I'm a fan. I'm a fan of MVP. I think getting people together, exercising together in a team environment, and then what I kind of like about it as well is now I'm in a position where I don't mind. I'll talk openly about stuff. I mean, fuck's sake, read a book about it, have a podcast about it. I don't mind now. But for talking is the very hard thing about it. So what I like about the sessions you do is at the end people get around on the mats and like you have a little kind of like a little talky session, and people I think are a lot more willing to talk once they've just done something with. They've just, you know, you've done physical exertion with people.
Right, yeah.
You know, you're a lot more likely to talk then because you've
vulnerable.
You've just had some you've just done some bonding and stuff there. You know.
Yeah, and
so I think it's a great idea.
It puts down a lot of guards people put up. Mm-hmm. You know, when you put yourself through some physical exertion, it requires a little bit of mental exertion because there's times in there, especially a lot of the people that don't work out all the time, that they kind of want to quit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then the guy or girl on their left and right is not quitting, so they can't. So then they got to push themselves, and they feel that bond and connection. And then afterwards, we sit on that mat, and everyone's just like, well, not everyone, but people are more adept to be vulnerable and open and very honest. Mm-hmm. And like we encourage sharing what you got going on. If it's like tough stuff, it doesn't have to be military related. Yep. If it's good stuff, like we want to hear about what people are doing well. And we live in a society where we just don't share stuff that much. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, we do. We share what coffee we just bought.
Yeah, we share the dumb stuff.
Yeah, we share dumb stuff.
Real,
but the stuff
real
that,
stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that matters. But I think I think it's probably about 3 years ago now since I came down to MVP. Probably about that, which is scary. But I think in that period, I do think it's become more normal now for people to share stuff.
Yeah. And we want to bridge that so that there's obviously taboo about mental health talk, admitting that there has been a long time anyway, admitting that you're struggling, right? And it's like always been seen as a weakness to say, I'm not doing so hot, I need help. Where it's the exact opposite. It's way more courageous, especially as like in this hyper masculine society and profession of professional sports and being in the military. It's way more courageous to just admit it and be like, hey, like, I'm not going to quit. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, right now, I'm having an issue with this.
Yeah.
Does anybody know? Has anybody else felt that or in the same boat? And, like, what can I do? What do you think I should try and do, you know? And someone else in that room has gone through the exact same thing or something very similar. Both those careers end, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s if you're really, really lucky. And then it's like you had this extreme high with the uniform and the locker room and the camaraderie and purpose and the family. You know, I just imagine, like, if your family was just jacked from you all of a sudden. It's like, that's traumatic, man. That's hard. So that to me was harder than anything I saw with my own eyes over there or experienced, or even like losing brothers. That was harder. And so that's all we're doing, man. We're normalizing that conversation. And I think adding the athlete element, obviously it's not going to war. Playing a sport is not anything like combat. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, like, we want, in the veteran community, we need more relatable experiences and people to be able to understand where we're coming from, and like to be able to have a conversation with us and be like, look, yeah, I didn't go to combat, but I know what you're thinking. I know what you're going through. I know what you're feeling, because that feels like this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's all we're trying to do, and just build that team up again. Yeah.
Love it, bro. We got a lot more to talk about, mate. We're going to have to do another one of these before I leave town, which is going to be in 4 months when the quarantine's lifted and there's like the last 20 people. Alive. Like, I feel like I've got a good chance of surviving the upcoming purge that's going to happen around here. We got a lot of guns in the house that I'm staying. Everyone knows how to use them. And in California, I feel like in Southern California, we're probably at an advantage there. You know, in that capacity. So I believe I'll be around for us to do another one. Yes. Mate, where can people find MVP? Where can people find yourself? Vetsandplayers.org is MVP. Waterboys.org/Kili, Kili, short for Kilimanjaro, for Waterboys, and at NateBoyer37 or NateBoyer.com. Cool. And I'll tag you up and everything. Cool. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. I said mate then, not Nate. That's all right. But you can call me anything. It's like, if there's anything, I want to leave people with one thing. Cause there's a lot of, you've said like a lot of really interesting stuff there, from the sports stuff to the Kilimanjaro stuff to, you know, the Sudan stuff. If there's one thing that you can leave people with, one thing take away for any veterans listening, or anybody, just anybody listening who's out there trying to better themselves, get through tough times, anything like that, then what would you say? That you're absolutely capable of greatness. Without obstacles, there is no greatness. So understand all those challenges and all those, you know, burdens and things that you think you can't overcome. Like, not only is it possible, they're necessary for you to become great, and they're going to make you tougher and stronger. And if you don't know, like, if you're having trouble finding a purpose and you like don't know what I'm supposed to be or who you're supposed to be, first of all, it can change 15 times. It doesn't matter. But just try things. Everybody has things they're interested in. People will be like, I don't know. BS. There's something. Maybe you're just not brave enough to admit it. There's something you're interested in. It might be way outside the box. You have no experience in that deal, right? But hey, I never knew anything about, you know, being a Green Beret. I didn't even know what it was really until I signed up. Too late. And then football, I never played before. I figured it out, and now I'm out here in Hollywood hustling, man, and making some things happen. And I still got a long way to go. It's really hard, and you know, it's challenging and competitive and all these things, but it's the hustle and the grind and the journey that I love, man. That's what makes me feel whole and happy. So just try things. Just try those things, and you might like them, you might not. If you don't, move on to something else and just keep going. I love it, dude. Right. It's easy. It's so simple. We complicate the crap out of things. It's simple. It's not easy. It's not exactly, but it's simple. Very true. It really is. Very true. I second everything you just said, bro. Thanks for coming on, mate. Love you. Love you guys for listening. Bro. Oh God, I gotta give you a big old cuddle right now. I'm not gonna do that. And, yeah, you guys. Catch you on the next episode. Love you. Bye. Yeah. Listen. Shout out Teaser. You told me not to worry, and you wouldn't break my heart. You told me you were sorry, yeah, my whole world fell apart. You said it's not my fault, and yeah, I've never done you wrong. I'm grinding to a halt, now I can see you're moving on. I promised I'd get better, and I told you things would change. You keep me to the gutter, yeah, I'll never be the same. I've gotta let you go, now live your life and spread your wings. And yeah, you put on quite a show, and pulled the puppet strings. And are you sure that you don't want me? Remember all the pain,
Or maybe you should thank me, it's your loss and my gain. I'm leaving now forever, I won't hang my head in shame. But yeah, you've taken me for granted, and you should feel ashamed. You sold a dream to all of us, a dream that we'd all die for. A reason for us all to live and something we could fight for. I might just help a man up to his feet or hold a newborn, but no matter what I do, my hands remembering my rifle, yeah.
Life's hard, I know that, still wouldn't change shit. I wouldn't go back, yeah, I wouldn't go back. Feelings I hold back, memories fade, yeah, they go fast, yeah, they go fast. Good times to come and go, survive the highs and lows. Just take it step by step, I guess, yeah, I suppose. Good times to come and go, survive the highs and lows. Just take it step by step.